Hi friends, very good evening and thank you for joining in. Could you just confirm if everything is working as expected? Could you see me, hear me, so that I know that things are working as expected? Uh, okay, I can hear myself back in the feedback loop, so I'm assuming things are looking good. Cool. Hey folks, very good evening, and let's wait for a couple of minutes for everyone to join in, and then we'll go through the session. And cool. Shreyas, thank you for the suggestion. We are planning to conduct more and more of these sessions, some of them conducted by me, some of them conducted by other co-founders, even by some of the gate toppers from the last couple of years who are our students in the previous years. So we'll be conducting these more regularly as we are roughly about 4.5 months away from the actual gate examination. That's the plan. Is my voice clear, folks? Am I audible? Let me just check my audio. Somebody said my audio is too low. Let me change. Okay, now can you hear me better? Is it better now? I've just increased the gain on my microphone. Good. Sorry. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So let's wait till 6:02 and then we'll get started. Again, let's, so the way, anyway, let everybody join in. Is the sound better? Can you just confirm if the sound is better now? Yeah, I have some of my team members also joining. Okay. So Jay is saying, are we the last batch of Gate Applied course? For now, yes. Again, we have, as of now, yes. Okay, cool. Sounds good. So let's give it a minute or two. My teammates are also here and we will go through this session. Let me set the context since it's 6:02. First of all, thank you very much for taking the time on a weekday evening. First and foremost, I also have some of my team members who will answer some of the questions in the chat window. I will tackle your answers in a while. But first things first, so we got some of the questions from you via email or via some of these chat questions or some of the live sessions that some of us were conducting earlier. And we thought we'll collate all of that. See, we are roughly in middle of September. So October, November, December, Jan, Feb. So 4.5 months is roughly what we have. This is the time when we have to double down our preparation. And hence we'll be conducting some of these sessions on how to prepare do's, don'ts, how to revise all of these sessions. Not just with me, but also with some of the alumni of Gate Applied course who have gotten good ranks in the past. Also some other instructors of ours and some of our co-founders also. I'll come to your questions. First, give me a second. I'll spend about 15-20 minutes first explaining a bunch of things that I wanted to explain, which could cover 80-90% of your questions. Once we cover that, then I'll come back to your questions. I'll try to answer as many questions as possible. In the meantime, some of my teammates who are joining could answer some of the questions. They're with the official handle, which is Gate Applied course. Does that make sense? Is everybody with me? Let me start sharing the screen. Can you see my screen now? Let me show you my screen. Can everybody see my screen now? Can everybody see my screen now? Cool. So let's do one thing. Let's give me 15-20 minutes. I'll cover a bunch of key topics as I was just telling you a while ago. And then I'll come back to your questions in the chat window. Cool. So this is all about what you should do and what you should not do in the next 4.5 to 5 months that we have before the GATE 2023 examination. Right? This is specifically to computer science, obviously, but some of these are generic enough lessons. So let's go one by one. So just a second. Okay. So, the first thing that I wanted to point out is there's a very common question that we get asked is how should I do my note taking? My first suggestion to everyone about note taking is this. This is mandatory. I'll tell you two strategies. One, if I were a student preparing for GATE, I would take my own notes. Take your own notes. Again, this is extremely beneficial because you know what you want to focus on when you revise. And what is the purpose of notes itself? The purpose of notes is to revise. That's the whole purpose. This is the best strategy. I have done this in my own years of preparation almost 15 years back when I was preparing for GATE, and this is what I strongly recommend. If you don't have time because you are working professional for whatever reason, please use our notes that we provide as your baseline. We see a lot of people printing it out. Just print it out if required. Plus take a annotator, take a highlighter, right? Take a highlighter and just highlight everything. For example, imagine this is our notes. You want to highlight something, just highlight it with a highlighter, or you can print it and write something, just have a blank page next to this, right? Whatever additional notes you want to write, scribble your notes here. Again, just make sure whatever you're highlighting or scribbling, you can revise it fast. That is the most important aspect of taking notes. And this is something that we do not want you to skip. Either of it is all right. This is better because personally I have done it myself. I've seen a lot of toppers do it, but this also is all right if you don't have time. So this is a do. You must do it. So let me put it. You must do this. Otherwise you will not be able to revise. The whole reason why we gave our handwritten notes is so that nobody misses out on the notes. The second thing is practice tests. Okay, so let's go one by one. So this is another very important aspect about practice tests. The strategy that we often suggest is please watch the videos. Once all the videos are over, because in the videos you also have some learning experiences, revise the concepts at the end of the videos and then take tests. It could be practice test, it could be subject test, multi-subject test, doesn't matter. But please do not skip the tests. We see a lot of people who just binge watch content. This is again another must, especially given that we are about 4.5 months from the examination. Intentionally, a lot of our questions in our practice tests, intentionally, they are medium and some of them are even tricky. We have even given some questions, some, not all questions, some questions above GATE level. We have intentionally done this because we have seen some years that the GATE question paper can be slightly trickier, not hard, slightly trickier. We want you to prepare for this eventuality. This year, if you get a slightly tricky paper, you should be ready. It should not be a shock for you. So intentionally, we have given this. Again, in your practice tests, if you are getting 40 plus marks, this is good. No worries. See, at the end of the day, 40 plus is not great, but it is good. If you are getting 40 plus, most importantly, all the questions that you got wrong, don't look at the answers. Retry these questions. Don't look at the answer. Just realize that suppose you have answered question 1, question 2, so on and so forth, question 10, and you realize that this answer is incorrect. Go back, retry that. Retry and see if you can correct yourself. If you are able to correct, good. Then debug. Understand what mistake you have done. And if you know what mistakes, a lot of times people do silly mistakes or they may have a conceptual gap. Debug your mistake and add that mistake in your notes so that next time when you revise your notes, you know what mistake you have done. If you have a gap, then go back to videos. If you don't understand the concept, go back. And most importantly, this is not the time. Do not get demotivated. We see a lot of people around the September-October time give up on GATE. Please do not. The cracking GATE is hard for everyone, not just for you. It is the ones who give up now who have everything to lose because you've already put in some weeks or months of effort. Please do not get motivated. We have seen people who are getting 35 to 40% in September who went on to get in the top 200, 300 ranks. That is very, very plausible, very doable. So don't get demotivated with this is very, very important. Okay. So next thing, what if I am getting less than 40% marks? There will be some people. If you're getting less than 40% marks, like if you're getting like 20, 25%, rewatch the videos or at least revise it from your notes or from the notes that we have given. Then retake all the questions that you have made, debug and move on. These steps you cannot escape. It is okay. See, the world isn't collapsing if you're getting less than 40% marks in the practice tests. But you just have to rewatch or revise from the notes. Do one of these. Most likely you have a lot of conceptual gaps if you're struggling to get 40% marks. Okay, so that's okay. That's perfectly okay. Again, the most important thing is the reason we have these practice questions. The reason we have these practice questions is to build your problem solving skills. This, again, at the end of the day, GATE is all about basics of computer science with problem solving skills, right? Again, this is very important, and please don't ignore this. Again, I see a lot of people comparing with each other. Do not compare with others, because everybody's GATE preparation, do not compare with others at this point of time. At this point of time, because everybody would have started at a different starting point. Some people are already good problem solvers. Some people already know data. Some people already are very good at CS foundations. But what is important is stop comparing with others. Find out what your number is and keep getting better at it. For example, this month you are at, let's say, 35%. Next month, try and become 45%. Then month after that, try and become 55%. That should be our goal, right? So this is very, very important. Please do not skip on practice tests. We see people skipping on practice tests and messing everything up. Without practice tests, unless you're a genius or a brilliant problem solver, you will not get through. Next, a very often question that we get is, how should I revise? Right? So first and foremost, everything that you're learning in a week, please revise it in a week. You could spend something like 2 to 3 hours every week revising. Everything that you're learning in a week, you should revise. Next, everything you're learning in a month, you revise it. You can take maybe 1 to 2 days completely. Revise everything that you learned in a month. And everything that you're learning in 2 to 3 months, also revise it. Now, while this revision, for example, every week you're revising, you take a practice test that you have, right? Like topic tests that you have. Because typically a week's content could be like a good amount of practice test. Or similarly, every month you can finish roughly a good chunk of a subject, or maybe sometimes if they're small subjects, you can probably cover more than one subject. Take your subject tests here and take your multi-subject tests, because every 2 to 3 months you can complete a bunch of subjects. Take multi-subject tests here, problem solved. So in your revision, what you should do is weekly, monthly, and 2 to 3 months, revise from the notes, recap everything, and then take the tests. There is no better revision than actually taking these tests. That's how we have even structured our whole program, right? So that's super duper. Again, every 2 to 3 months, if you want, you can take something like 4 to 6 days break. That's okay. That's okay. No problem. But please don't skip on the tests, because that's a great way to do it. Also, one more thing, you might be doing multiple revisions. Okay, so revisions typically happen like this. Okay, this is what we often observe. Suppose you finished a subject. For example, you finished a whole subject or you finished a bunch of subjects. The first revision is actually very important, because the first revision is the first time you're revisiting a topic. Very important, right? You can take, again, this first revision, probably you'll do maybe 1 month or a couple of months after the subject is over. Right? This is very, very important, because it's the first time you're going back to a subject, and probably you're either taking a subject test or a multi-subject test. Then the second revision, again, you could do multiple revisions of a subject. You could do it sometime in November or December. Or I see people sometimes doing even in January. That's okay. Do it around the time of your grand tests and mock tests, because these are full length tests, no? So this is the second time ideally you should be doing revision. The third time you can do revision, the third revision, you can do it like 2 to 3 weeks before the exam. 2 to 3 weeks before the exam. Again, sometimes for some of you, maybe you may not be able to do all the 3 revisions. Even if you're doing 2 revisions, that's okay. That's perfectly okay, right? But please make sure that you're at least doing 2 revisions. 1 second. Just make sure that you're at least taking 2 revisions, so that you have, like, this is very, very critical, right? So think of it this way. You're revising weekly, monthly, every 2 to 3 months. Good. At the end of completing at least 70-80% of the syllabus, when you take grand tests and mock tests, just do 1 revision. before the exam, one revision. This is the ideal case. In case you're not able to do it, two is also all right. Right? Now you might say, hey, what should revision consists of? Again, I'm pointing so much on revision because it is a must given the breadth of topics that we have to learn from. So revision, a lot of people do it from self notes. If you have written your own notes, go through that notes. Also, we recommend self notes are applied roots notes, right? Applied roots notes. This is very, very helpful. Second thing is, if you can make short notes. Again, short notes is extremely helpful for your last revisions just before the examination or just before a grand test or a mock test. Short notes, if you can write short notes, again, the objective of short notes is, can you revise a subject in 2 to 3 hours? 2 to 3 hours per subject. If you can do that, great. Again, I've also seen people who take either applied roots notes or self notes and just highlight to get the short notes. Most importantly, all your mistakes or errors that you have made in the past should be there in your notes that you revise. Right? Again, one thing that I suggest, first time you're revising, right, whether through your self notes or applied roots notes, just take a small sheets of paper and just write your short notes there. And the objective of short notes is you can revise very, very quickly. And you can create short notes just by annotations or highlights. Oh, that's also all right. No problem with that. But please don't skip on it, because that helps you enormously later on. Another very important thing is analyzing your mistakes. I told you, right? Debug or analyze your mistakes. This is something that we see very few people do. Debug mistakes. So if you have gotten a solution wrong, that's okay. What you should target for is week over week improvement. This is what matters at the end of the day. Again, I've seen candidates, I've seen students. Let's assume there is student 1 who gets 60% correct right now. Plus, he doesn't know debugging. He or she is not debugging and improving their percentage of questions that they're getting correct week over week. There is a second student who is only getting 35% of questions correct today, but they are debugging and they're doing deep analysis and they're constantly improving week over week. We have seen students like these, and these students are the ones who win finally. These are the ones who win. And this is extremely important, folks. Please don't misunderstand me. You could be smart, but if you're not constantly improving, somebody who is less smart than you today, who is less knowledgeable than you today, if they're debugging, they can beat you tomorrow. And it's very important because at the end of the day, finally, it'll all boil down to competition, right? So this is one more thing. Another interesting thing that I would suggest is, imagine there is a question about which you're 80% confident. You're not 100% confident. You're 80% confident of the answer. My suggestion is make a note of it. And in the note, write down what is your uncertainty. Why are you only 80% confident about the answer? Because sometimes, again, today, probably you're 80% confidence because you have a gap or you've not understood a concept. So make a note of this and then debug this also. So it's not only about debugging questions that you're not able to answer. You're 80% confident, you might get it right. But don't leave the 20% uncertainty, because the question tomorrow in the examination could be based on the topic where you have a gap. This is also very, very important and often overlooked gaps in knowledge, right? At any point, if you have a doubt about a question or anything, please use our ticketing system and mention the timestamp. Again, don't hesitate to take our help. We are here to help you, right? And please send us the timestamp where you're confused. Better still, if you're solving a problem, send us the picture of the solution. Take a picture with your phone. Send us a picture of your solution so that we know where you are exactly stuck and we can mentor you and guide you. We can give you personalized responses. We see some students just giving us generic points. I'm not able to solve this problem. I can give you a generic answer, but that doesn't help you much because I don't know where you're exactly stuck. And it's important for me to know where you're stuck so that I understand your gap and one of us can resolve it. These are extremely important concepts that I did not want to miss up, or I didn't want you to miss. Again, by no means this is exhaustive, but I believe that these are fundamentals that we should not compromise on. So to put it more bluntly, my argument would be as follows. Revision at this, start your revision of whatever subjects you have done. Start solving the problems. Don't skip on solving the problems, and debug the mistakes that you're making. It's okay if you're not getting 60-70% hit rate or success rate in your question. That's okay, as long as you're on the right track of improvement. These were some of the things that I wanted to bring to you based on some of the emails I've seen, some of the comments that I've seen and stuff like that. Again, I'm happy to answer your questions. The floor is open. Please shoot your questions. I'm happy to help you, give any guidance on how to better prepare for the next 4 to 5 months. Again, my team is also there. Any administrative questions, my team can tackle them for you. But any academic related questions, I am happy to, just a second. So any, just a second, just give me a second. Let me just start looking at your comments also quickly. So any academics related questions, I'm happy to take them. So Mahima is saying, my other apps are running, but lectures are not running and I'm not able to attend lectures. Mahima, just curious, please use a Chrome browser, especially if you're attending the AirMeet classes. I think that should take care of itself. And some students had problems in the previous class. That's why we are doing it on YouTube and not elsewhere. If there is any problem with the videos, just can you take a screenshot of what you're seeing and send it to us so that we can help you there. So next question. Again, I'll just take the questions that I see. Okay, so this is a question about, that I see a few questions about completion of topics, completion of subjects, etc. See, ideally, the best case scenario is if you have completed all subjects by early December. That's a best case scenario. Let's be realistic. And we have seen people who do that all the time. Because then you can use December and January to take all your grand tests, mock tests, your second revision happens. The early February is your final revision before the examination. That's the ideal case. But we have seen people who have just finished their first revision in early Jan. See, not everybody is same. There will be working professionals, there will be students, there will be third year students also. So it's perfectly all right. But my suggestion is right now, see, we are still in late September, right? I see some people saying, I have 3 subjects left. What should be my strategy? Whatever subjects are left, please try to finish them while revising the older subjects. Go back to that strategy of weekly revision, monthly revision, once every 2 to 3 months revision, right? So don't skip on that strategy. It's very, very important. Now, again, somebody is saying, I think his alias is AR1. I hope you get AR1. Can I complete in October? Oh, why not? The earlier, the better. But don't just, like if somebody is completing all of their syllabus in October or November, that does not mean that they'll get a top rank. Because at the end of the day, your ability to solve problems is what matters. If you're completing early, good. Do more revision, solve more problems. We have like 5,000-6,000 problems. Solve all of them. Debug every mistake. If you have more time, you will be able to debug problems faster and better, no? So that could be one strategy, right? So, but even if you are finishing your first iteration of all the subjects by late December, early Jan, that's cool. So I see a question from Saurabh. Shall I leave aptitude and English course videos? Saurabh, for aptitude, if you're able to solve the problems, because these are high school mathematics, you can leave the videos. English also, if you're able to solve the problems, skip the videos. That's okay. I often recommend for those people who have to watch the videos for aptitude, watch them between 2 hard subjects. Because take, let's say you're studying operating systems and then computer organization, you want a little break in between. Do it as a break subject. That's what I would suggest. Okay, so this is a question from Omar. There is too much confusion in some topics like transactions, SQL, etc. I mean, lot to remember. Very good question, Omar. Very nice question. So this is what I do. Transaction control, there are so many terminologies. There is so much. This is what I have done while I was a student. Even when I was teaching this, I would take, let's say, 4 A4 size papers. I would make short notes on all types of transaction control or all types of commands that I have in SQL. Like when I am watching the video, I just take 4 sheets of paper and I start scribbling down. Because at least for me, and I think for a lot of us, if you just make a note of what you're learning, and after I finish, let's say 2-3 hours of videos, I just go through these notes, I revise it. 1 week later, I revise it. Again, short notes say. Just making these short notes is enormously powerful. And that has helped me remember all these cases, especially when there is a lot to remember. That's my strategy, and that's what works brilliantly well. Okay. Cool. Okay. So some of the questions, administrative questions, my team is answering. So this is from another student. I'm left with COA, Computer Organization, Engineering Mathematics, Aptitude, DLD, DBMS. I'm confused which one to complete and which one to choose. Okay. My suggestion is this. If you go to gate.appliedroots.com, so we have a video on the order of subjects that you should prepare. Okay, let me just show you that anyway. Let me start sharing my screen with all of you. Okay, so if you go here, go to this blog and learning strategies. Look at this. There is learning strategies. There is analysis and stuff like that. There is also complete notes. You can also go to complete notes. That's okay. No, sorry. I should just say learning strategies for 55 plus marks. Okay. So here, if you observe, we have listed these topics. We have written this blog. We recommend this order of completing because we have analyzed papers for the last almost 20-25 years. And we have seen that theory of computation and compiler design, this is the typical weightage. And you can easily score 90% of marks here. So if you have multiple subjects left, we strongly recommend that you follow this order because this is the order from easiest scoring. So we have ordered it based on the weightage of marks and how easy is it to score marks in these topics and in descending order. Computer organization typically has 5 to 8 marks and typically has lengthy questions, sometimes tricky questions. Again, this is based on almost last 20-25 years of test papers. So if you have multiple subjects that are left, please follow this order. Again, it's right there. It's what we often recommend. Again, I think, I'm sure there's a video also based on this on our YouTube channel that you can refer to. Right? I hope this helps. Just give me a second, please. Is that clear? Some of you who have questions about what topics to take and things like that. Okay, so this is a question from Mahima, which is it good to cover 2 subjects together? If you can, why not? I mean, see, some people can balance both subjects. For example, imagine if I'm learning engineering mathematics and parallelly I want to do, let's say, CO. And if I'm able to manage both of them, why not do it? But at least I am somebody who can't juggle very well. So I do one thing at a time perfectly. But if you can do it, why not? Great. Okay, so I think there is a question about the syllabus and I think one of my teammates has answered it. So here I see a question from Yash. Again, I'm just picking questions as I see them. I'll try to answer as many as possible over the next hour or so. I got less marks in 12th, but got 83% in 10th, due to which I'm having self-doubt as I've performed in IIT JEE. Look at this, Yash. My 10th class marks are 69%. My 12th class marks are 59.8%. My gate rank is 2. My BTech percentage is 89.8. And nobody cares about my 10th and 12th marks. You have to work hard. Again, confidence is something that you get by solving problems. How do you become confident? How did I become confident? Because I've solved thousands of problems. Right? How did I become confident in machine learning? Because I worked in machine learning. I would have read hundreds and hundreds of research papers and implemented things in the industry. You become confident by solving problems. Don't worry about what happened a few years back. Nobody cares. You can't live in your past. Wake up, get buckled up and start studying. Nobody cares. Again, nobody has ever asked me about my 11th and 12th class marks till date in any company that I worked at. Okay, so don't worry about it. So Yash, and one question is, I'm covering a CS subject with discrete maths. Is it a bad strategy? No, guys, there is no bad strategy as long as you're moving forward. And as long as you're doing the do's and don'ts that I just suggested you a while ago. That is the core. Again, I see somebody saying, what's the strategy to revise discrete maths? My suggestion is this: for any subject, revise from our provided notes or your written notes and solve problems. When to solve test series questions? So Chirag, my suggestion to you is this: once you complete at least 70 to 80% of subjects, then you can start taking the test series. Test series may especially grand tests, mock tests, all of that. But if you have topic tests, subject tests, etc., you can take it as, see, anything which is a topic test or a subject test or a multi-subject test, take it as part of your revision strategy. Your revision and practice should be deeply intertwined. That is extremely important. I cannot emphasize that enough. Somebody says, can you supply short notes? No. Let me be very precise there. No. We do not want to give you short notes, because short notes is something that you should write for yourself. Because the way you write short notes will be different from mine. I write short notes with all diagrams and just equations. That's how I write short notes. What is the objective of short notes? It is for you to revise and prepare a subject in 2 to 3 hours. We gave you long notes. If you want, just highlight the important parts, make that your short notes. What you highlight depends on you. Everybody's short notes will be different. It should be for you to revise, and your short notes must contain the mistakes that you're making in the exams or in the practice tests. So your short notes is personalized to you. We do not recommend you share the short notes amongst yourself also, because then you're not getting the most out of it. If you're not even willing to put in like couple of hours to write notes of a subject, come on, you're just kidding yourself. Okay. So cool. So Abhishek has a very nice question. I'm unable to solve computer network questions even after watching videos. What to do? Very good question. Abhishek, do us a favor. Take a problem, solve it wherever you can. Show us where you got stuck, so that we can exactly understand where your gap is and point you in the right direction. You do this for 4 or 5 problems, you'll fall on track. Computer networks is tricky. Let's be realistic. Like, it was one of my nightmare subjects in my undergrad days, because I wrote my gate exam in 3rd year without preparing computer networks, because computer networks was in my final year in my BTech. And I still remember that I could not solve any problem in my BTech 3rd year when I wrote gate, but final year, of course, I practiced a lot. But at the end of the story, at the end of the game, tell us where you are stuck. You can debug this yourself. Remember, if you can debug it and figure out, great. If you're not able to figure out, just take a photograph, send it to us. We'll help you there. Okay. This is from Abhijit. Is it necessary to learn discrete maths before DSA? Not exactly. We have created our content in such a way that you can pick any subject and start with it. Right? You can start discrete maths and then do DSA, or vice versa. We treat them more or less independent of each other. So there is no strict rule that you should do this and that. But again, there is some overlap between both of these, conceptually at least. This is a very nice question. I'm facing difficulty in understanding undecidability. Should I leave it? This is from somebody whose alias is PB. Typically, we get like a 1 or 2 marks question from undecidability. Typically, it is the like, if you ask me, undecidability is probably the most beautiful concept in whole of undergraduate computer science. Right? If I remove machine learning, which is my favorite topic, in whole of simple undergrad computer science, undecidability is the best concept that I enjoyed most teaching and also learning myself. The first time I learned, I said, this is wow, this is magical. But if you're struggling too much, you can skip it. That's okay. I wouldn't recommend it, because lot of times undecidability questions are easy. That's the only place where we see people losing marks in theory of computation. So if you're struggling too much, don't spend too much time. It's 1 or 2 marks. Leave it. But just appreciate why undecidability is important, because this will help you in the long term in your career also. Because there will be problems related to undecidability. Like, for example, there is something called as neural Turing machines, which is basically Turing machines in machine learning context. Right? That I enjoy studying because I know what a Turing machine is. And they're also very, very applicable in the real world. So understand it. If you're finding it too difficult, it's okay. Skip that question. Again, you don't have to get 100% marks all the time. Let's not forget that. Um, Can you arrange a session from last year students? Oh, yes, we're talking to some of these folks. Last year students as well as before last year students, mostly from Indian Institute of Science, where I also teach a few courses there. So I was recently at Indian Institute of Science doing a hackathon with all the master students. Again, good to see old students again in the campus. I did it along with the chairman of the computer science department. And I've requested some of them to take these sessions. They're happy to take. We'll just arrange them and send you the notification for the same. Okay, cool. Let me go up here. Very nice question from Vikrant. I was getting good marks in practice tests, but in topic and subject tests, time flies away fast as there is no time limit. Good. Very good question, Vikrant. My suggestion is this. It's okay. To be frank with you, that's okay. The reason we don't put a time limit in practice tests is because we want you to build that problem solving mindset. Speed, it will come. Don't worry. We still have 4.5 months. Slowly, as you start taking more and more, let's say topic tests, subject tests, with time you will build that speed. Oftentimes, speed is less important than accuracy in GATE. I can completely imagine that you might be dropping a few questions at this point, but if you stick to it, your speed also will improve. I'm not very worried about speed at this point. I would be worried in probably late December, early Jan. Right now, I'm happy that you're doing good in practice tests. Just keep at it. Don't get demotivated by your slightly lower marks probably in topic test, subject test. It will get corrected eventually. With practice, your speed will increase. Don't worry about it. Cool. Okay, I see some questions about specific subjects. I see somebody saying, "Hey, I'm concerned about data structures, algorithms. What should be my preparation strategy?" Again, for GATE, irrespective of the subject, because GATE questions are roughly at the same level. Irrespective of the subject, the strategy is the same. Videos, see how problems are solved in the videos. Solve a few problems, take the practice test, struggle through them. It's okay to make mistakes, revise, go back to topic test, subject test, etc. Practice is the key. There is no solution. I mean, if there was an easier solution, we would have put it in front of you. At least I don't know of a solution. I've talked to a lot of GATE toppers. I don't know of a solution, to be honest with you. It is pure blunt practice and revision. Revision primarily because we have so many topics that we have to be up to date with. That's it. Whatever topics it is. Now, Raja has a question which is it enough to solve PYQs for aptitude? More than sufficient. We have some practice tests, etc. Right? You solve that, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Aptitude is easily scoring. Don't skip it. Please don't skip aptitude. It's extremely easy to score marks in aptitude. Why do you want to give up that? Just give me a sec. If you're able to solve a lot of previous year questions or our practice questions, etc., good. You don't have to watch the videos. Don't worry about them. So another question from Subhash, is it necessary to write notes or is the course notes good? Again, we have had people who got in the top 10 ranks who have not written notes, even top 100 ranks who have not written notes. We have just taken our notes, highlighted it, wrote some small scribbles around it. So writing notes is a choice. We encourage it because we believe we benefited a lot when we wrote our own notes. Like for all the classes that I taught, I literally wrote every line of notes myself personally. Again, in my own shorthand, right? So I strongly recommend you write it, but in case you don't have time, that's okay. You can still get good marks as long as you're revising. Rajesh has a question. What's a decent rank in GATE? Is below 1000 rank worth it? Rajesh, below like around 700, 800 also, you'll get some good places like IIT Bangalore, IIT Varanasi. You'll get some NITs, etc. Of course, if you're in the top 200-300, you're in a very sweet spot. Even top 500, you'll get good NITs. 1000 also, you might get some places. I'm not sure exactly. But think of it like this. If you're below 800, you're in a decently good place. So somebody's saying, Lokesh is saying how to approach PYQs. I'm not feeling correct at first go. Lokesh, my suggestion is this. You can start with the practice tests, all the questions that we have. With that, you will get that confidence. Then go for PYQs. That's what I would typically recommend. Use PYQs as a backup. We have like 5,000-6,000 questions ourselves. Beyond that, if you take last 20 years of question papers, you will have another 1,500-1,600 questions. So if you think your answer is not correct, that 80% correctness that I told you a while ago, no? If you're 80% confident about an answer, take a guess. But make a note of that question. Go back and say, why is it that you're not able to get through? That's my suggestion. Okay, cool. One second. So Lakshmi Narayan says, is it good decision to focus more on COA and OS because most of the people ignore those subjects because of depth? Lakshmi Narayana, see, at the end of the day, your total marks is what matters, not marks that you got in CO or OS. I've seen students who barely get only a few questions correct in CO and OS, but get in the top 100 ranks. And the reason for that is, just because you got more marks in CO and OS does not mean that you don't have to get good marks in other subjects, right? You have to get good marks. Overall marks should be good. So if you have a weak subject, all of us have weak subjects. CN was my weak subject in my BTech third year when I wrote GATE. I got some 176 rank then. In my BTech final year, I made sure I don't have any weak subjects when I go for the exam because I practiced all my weak subjects. So all of us have some weak subject and that's okay. But what matters for your final rank is the aggregation of all marks across all subjects. Okay. This is a good question from Yash. How to manage placements and final year project along with GATE preparation? Very good question. Here is my suggestion. Your placements typically would be happening now. So make sure your preparation for data structures and algorithms and C programming coincide with your placements so that you get the best of both. Now for your project, talk to your faculty, talk to your the chairman of the department or the HOD as we call them. Tell them that you'll work on it after Feb 15th, after the exam is over. That's what I did when I was a student. I said, I want to prepare seriously for GATE, but after Feb 15th, I'll work full-fledged. I'll work for 2 months just on the project and finish it. Most often, most faculty members respect that as long as you have a decent relationship with the faculty. That's what I would recommend. I mean, that's the fastest way. That's a most simplest way also for you. Cool. One second. This is a question from Suryakant. If I start now, what should you suggest about do's and don'ts? Suryakant, even if you're starting now, see, we have 4.5 months. You have to put in more effort. Let's be realistic about it. You can start now. I've seen people who start in September get a very good rank. I've shown you a blog a while ago, right? Just go to gate.appliedroots.com. You have a blog on how to score more than 55 marks. Start tackling subjects in the order that we give. 4.5 months, if you sit solid, like 5 hours a day, you can crack GATE. I've seen people do that. So you can do it. Make sure you're going in that order of subjects, putting in good 5 hours of effort every day. The process doesn't change. The process is about learning the concepts, practicing the concepts, revising the concepts. That system doesn't change. That's the foundation. Whether you prepare for 10 years for GATE or you prepare for 5 months for GATE, the fundamentals don't change. Cool. Somebody saying, how to score good in system subjects? Yes, at the end of the day, the logic is same for any system subject. As you have seen, probably you've seen in our videos, right? If you see how problems are solved, for example, take CO. If you see how I solve the problems in the videos, I draw a diagram for everything. Whether it's a question about virtual memory or whether it's about memory management or how memory is organized, whatever it is, one trick that I've learned is try to draw diagrams as much as possible, especially for system subjects. That way, I know what is happening, I know what to figure out, and I can solve it easily. Drawing diagrams, especially for CO, OS, to some extent DBMS, is extremely useful. Especially for system subjects, I do this a lot. So try that. So Chirag says, what could be a good marks for 500 rank? Again, it's hard to guess. It changes from year to year. Very, very hard to guess. I mean, I can't, like, if I have to make a guesstimate, if you're getting 60 plus marks for a typical paper, I think you're in safe zone. 60, 65-ish, probably you're in a safe zone. But this could change from year to year. If you have a hard paper, that will reduce. If you have an easy paper, that will go up. Cool. Okay, Shreyas says, assuming my syllabus gets over by October, what should I prepare for the rest of it? My suggestion is revise all the subjects, start taking grand tests, debug every question, every mistake you have taken, take all tests, all the test series, take all the 5,000, 6,000 questions, solve the last 20 years of PYQs, focus on revision, debugging, revision, debugging, revision, debugging. And you're in a very sweet spot because you have 4 months to revise. What better that can you ask for? I mean, you're in a very good spot. Just double down on that. When should I finish just watching lecture videos and doing practice tests only? And can I leave the subject tests and PYQs after completing watching all the lecture videos? This is from Irtika. So my suggestion is this. Watch the videos once. Revise from our notes that we give you or the notes that you have written. Take the tests. Now go back to the videos if and only if you're not able to solve a problem and you think going back to the video is necessary to fill a gap. Otherwise, you don't have to go back to the video second time because you have notes to revise from. That's what I would suggest. Right? So that's my suggestion. Now Rajesh says, I feel PYQs are almost covered in your video lectures. Yeah, Rajesh, we have tried to cover a lot of PYQs in the lecture videos. But some of them I'm sure we would have left out. We don't, like a lot of our students don't go through PYQs because they're in some form or other, or at least some of that question formats are covered in our 5,000, 6,000 questions. So you don't need it, frankly speaking. But if you want to do it, great. More practice never hurts. So Yash says, I'm left with COA and discrete maths. First suggestion, finish discrete maths. Finish COA, start revision. Or finish discrete maths, start revision, parallelly do COA. That's also a decent idea. How to handle less months left in gate prep as the pressure shakes our confidence and strategy. See, if you're left with lot of stuff to cover and you have short amount of time, you have to put in more hours per day. There is no shortcut, dude. At the end of the day, I mean, let's cut to the chase. You have about 500 hours of, about 400 plus hours of content. You have about 11, 12 subjects that you have to revise, learn, practice. If there was a shortcut, everybody would take that shortcut. Why work so hard? Right? If you have less time, put in more hours per day. There is no other shortcut that I can quickly think of. Right? Simple logic. Now this is from Divanshu. I'm left with TOC, CD and CN. What should I do? Divyanshu, please go to that page that I showed you, how to score 55 plus marks. The first thing that we suggest is finish TOC, CD because they're very highly scoring. First finish that, then do CN and then do the revision. Please don't skip theory of computation, compiler desire, data structures, algorithms, discrete math, etc. They're very scoring. You can get tons of marks there. Nice question from Raja. Suppose we get a question which is not covered in the course, then should we completely skip it or attempt it by hit and trial? So my suggestion is, see, every type of question cannot be covered by us. It's impossible because the people who are creating the GATE question papers will try to create new types of questions. But if you're not confident about tackling that, see, if your foundations are strong, you'll be able to tackle such a question. But if you're not confident, if you can't get rid of some options, then don't take a chance. Why get negative marks for it? Keep moving on. You don't have to get 100% marks, right? Even if you get high 70s or low 80s, you can get a very, very good rank in GATE. So don't worry too much about missing out on some questions. That's okay. So this is a question. Are last 1.5 to 2 months enough for full length test and iterations? Oh yes. Last 2 months is good. I would suggest December, Jan. Try and do as many full length tests as possible. Keep debugging. And then Feb will be your last revision before the examination. So Subhash says a very nice question. I like this question. Could you guarantee me a rank below 100 if I solve all the questions in the course? Now, what does solving mean? If you're able to solve all the questions without looking at the answers yourself, then nothing in the world can stop you. Because I think many of our questions are harder than most gate questions. So I think if you're not seeing the solution, if you're solving it genuinely yourself, I don't see any reason why you should not get a rank less than 100. I'm fairly confident that you'll get. Of course, I can never give a guarantee. It's impossible for anybody to give a guarantee. But I'm fairly confident that if I solve all of the questions, 5,000 questions that we have, and if I solve it without looking at the solutions, even if I get 95% of the questions correct, I'll be very confident that I can get like a top 100 rank in GATE. I will be. So if you're doing that, great. But realistically speaking, what will happen is this: you will make mistakes. I will also if I'm solving the 5,000 questions that we set, I will make mistakes. What is important is correcting those mistakes, making sure we don't repeat those mistakes next time, or filling the conceptual gaps and making sure that I don't have a gap for the examination. That is more realistic, my suggestion. But if you solve 5,000 questions, you see the answers, and you've not built the problem solving ability, you will not get a rank. Doesn't matter. You can't remember 5,000 questions and answers. The actual question will be different from it. It's testing not whether you know this type of question, but do you know the concept? That's the whole point. So this is a question from Snehashish. Within a span of 2 grant tests, how to revise all subjects and also improve efficiency? See, Snehashish, let's assume you have 2 grant tests in a gap of about, let's say, week or 2. Between grant tests, we strongly recommend that you debug the mistakes from the previous grant test and see what mistakes you have done, what areas you're lacking, go back, revise. It's not that you'll fill all the gaps in the first grant test itself. First grant test, you might get less marks. That's okay. Correct yourself, keep improving incrementally. Their week over week improvement, as I was talking to you a while ago, that is the key. And that's what you should focus on. Right? You can do it. You will not become the best problem solver by just taking 2 grant tests. It's a week over week improvement. That's what is important. Okay, cool. One second. Mayank has a very nice question. I'm a working professional. Will age factor be a hurdle in MTech placements? Not much. I've had classmates who were in their late 20s, some of them even early 30s, and it didn't impact them in any way. Actually, they were hired at a slightly senior role than many of us by FANG-like companies. It doesn't matter. As long as you have the skills, recruiters will hire you. So, okay, this is a question from Sunny. I rush too much in tests, making a lot of silly mistakes. Sunny, I'll tell you, every time you make a silly mistake, slap yourself once. Tight slap yourself. I'm not joking. Right? Then you'll remember, I'm just joking, don't hurt yourself. My suggestion is, you can just give yourself a pat, or probably you can skip a coffee. I mean, at least in South India, we are like big coffee fans, or you can skip a tea. Then you'll remember that I've made a mistake. You have to penalize yourself, right? More importantly, in your notes, write down that what silly mistake you have done. Next time, consciously go to the exam and tell yourself, I'm not rushing. Even if I solve only 80% of the question paper, chalega. That's okay. But I'm not repeating that silly mistake I made a note of. That way, you will reduce your silly mistakes are really, 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 really bad. Trust me. I've done this in the past as a student. I've seen tons of really good students mess up because of silly mistakes. That's why I'm telling you, make a note of your silly mistake. Go back and make sure in the exam you avoid that. In the notes I told you, write down all your mistakes. Probably you should put a red line below your silly mistakes. That's very, very important. So Shikhar says, in a week, how many full-length tests should be given? It all depends on how much time you have. Make sure you can finish all the full-length tests. That's the objective. If you have 1 month, pace it accordingly. If you have 3 months, pace it accordingly. That's the whole point. So Yash says, I'm weak at solving problems because I've not solved many problems till now. Get solving. The only solution, it's like, how do I build muscle? Go to gym, lift weights. How do I become a good runner? Start running. How do I become good programmer? Start programming. How do I become good at problem solving? Start solving. There is no shortcut there. That's it. So Rishabh has a question. I'm able to understand the reduction examples of TOC, but not. Okay, sorry. I'm able to understand in the videos, but I'm not able to implement reduction myself. Okay, Rishabh, let's do one thing. Take the problem where you're stuck. Take a photograph and send it to us. Our team will help you. Because then I know exactly what sort of reduction you're not able to do. Reductions are tricky. Let's be realistic. Frankly speaking, they're tricky because getting that idea of reduction is not trivial. Na? And a lot of times gate exam, you don't get too much of the reduction questions also. Cool. So Ansari has a question. What is the best piece of advice you can give to us as of now? Watch the videos, solve the problems, make a note of your mistakes. Again, I know I'm telling you too many things, but please bear with me. Revise, practice. If there is only one thing I can tell you, I'll say practice problems. I see so many people who don't do it and they don't get a gate rank. If there is one thing that I can tell you, please practice. The others are also important to practicing. Okay. Now, there's a question from Pratik that my team has answered. Okay. So Ruchi says, I'm a working professional from a non-CS background. How do I cope with this? What are the most important topics that I absolutely should not skip? Ruchi, I showed you this blog a while ago, right? Make sure that you complete at least, start coming top down from theory of computation, compiler design downwards. Complete at least 70 to 80% of those subjects. Then you stand a good chance of getting a decent rank, if not a top 100 rank. You could squeeze in a top 300, top 400. So go to the blog, go to gate.appliedroots.com, go for how to score more than 55 marks and start with the first subject, theory of computation, compiler design, keep coming down because that way you're maximizing the marks that you can obtain. And that's what is important. So this is a nice question, which is, did you consult standard books and try to analyze them? Oh yes, when I was a student, I read mostly standard textbooks and learned from them. Actually, a lot of the videos that you see, you might have recognized them. Like for example, if you take data structures algorithms, I use Cornell, Leeserson, Rivest, CLRS textbook I use directly. And I give the credit where it's due. Again, what we have tried to do is for every subject, we try to go to the best textbooks that are actually used at IITs, IISc, even Stanford and MIT. And we said, let's take this textbook and simplify it with some practical applied knowledge. So we have actually borrowed a lot of ideas and teaching from the best of textbooks that are used in the world. So that you don't have to do it. If you have time, please do it. Nothing beats that. But we have tried to do some of that ourselves. Cool. This is a nice question from, again, Sneha Shish. How to leave questions in an examination? I get stuck in some problems which I think I can solve, but at the end I cannot and takes too much time. Sneha Shish, if you have a 1 mark question, if you're spending more than 2 to 3 minutes, probably you should skip it. For a 2 mark question, if you're spending more than 4 to 5 minutes, probably you should skip it there. And say, theek hai, and if you can eliminate some options, make a guess. Make a reasonable guess, right? Probably at least the positive marks and negative marks will cancel out eventually. But otherwise, skip the question. You don't have to answer all the questions. Is there still enough time to practice questions for all subjects? Oh, very much so. That's the reason why we conducted this session now, because we have close to 4.5 months ahead of us. We still have a lot of time. 100 days is good enough if you have gone through all the concepts just to revise and practice. You have about 130 odd days, if I'm not wrong. Cool, folks. How many hours to invest from now on? Chirag, the amount of effort differs from person to person. My suggestion is this. You have studied some subjects, no? You have taken some practice. How much ever effort is required for you to finish all your subjects by early to mid-December? If it requires you to put 2 hours, do 2 hours. If it requires you to put 5 hours, do 5 hours. If it requires you to put 8 hours, put 8 hours. It's okay. but try and finish all your syllabus or at least 80% of the syllabus by mid-December. That's my suggestion. Cool. So should I leave COA and give more time to other subjects? Don't leave COA completely. There are some simple concepts in COA where you can score marks. Don't leave it completely, na? So my suggestion is there are some simple concepts there. Make the most out of the simple concepts and revise other subjects. Why not? Yes, there are some concepts in COA where you can easily get marks. Okay. Cool. Sounds good. So this is good. Okay, I think I see a repetition of questions of sorts. So again, thank you folks. Thank you very much. I know we had this short discussion, but we are planning to have some of my co-founders who are also gate toppers, some of our instructors, and also some of our alumni who have gone through our program in the past years. We'll try and conduct more and more of these sessions. They could be just 1 hour long. I'll also participate with some of these folks in the future sessions so that we all can discuss and we all can give you the do's and don'ts, that we can guide you on the right path so that at least you're not losing out, you're not giving up in the last few critical months. Okay. Again, see you all. Glad to have had the discussion with you. Sorry, I need to jump onto something because I have another class shortly, and see you all again. Bye-bye. Thank you, folks.